Hello fellow adventurers, my name is Michael, and today we are going to be doing yet another Skyrim challenge video. Before we start though, let me just say that I now have an eternal burning hatred for Spitefire46, who is not only a great and questionable friend of mine, but is also the one that suggested this idea, as well as the restrictions. If you thought the pacifist run was hard on me, you better believe me when I say this was annoying. Without any more stalling, what is it that we are going to be doing today, and what are the rules of today's challenge? Can you beat Skyrim with only staves? Rule number 1, I can only use staves for combat. Rule number 2, I cannot recharge them with soul gems, meaning when it's empty, it's empty. Rule number 3, healing is allowed via potions. Rule number 4, no companions allowed to follow me unless the game forces it. Rule number 5, creating staffs is allowed. Rule number 6, using environmental traps is still allowed. And rule number 7, hitting webs is acceptable so long as no enemies get hurt. So you must be wondering about the staff crafting bit, right? Yeah, I installed a mod to allow me to make my own, and the one I chose makes it a big challenge because of the material costs, meaning it won't be easy either way I go about it. With all that out of the way, is it possible to beat the game with a Skyrim version of the Nuzlocke challenge? Let's find out. Cutting to the chase, we'll be starting off just after we created our character, which as always I choose Khajiit, and after we join sides with Hadvar inside the Helgen Keep. After we get our bindings off and we look inside the chest to put on our armor, we must make our way through this entire dungeon while letting Hadvar do all the work. And while this in itself isn't so bad, it's just slow because he can be knocked down a lot and takes a while to get back up. So that just leaves me to run around and do nothing for the most part because I don't have a staff and I'm not gonna have one for a while. But after a good while of slowly making our way through, we finally reach the drawbridge, which we put down, and then we have Hadvar fight the frostbite spiders. I was planning on having him fight the bear, but I figured I'd be nice for today and just sneak on past. After we get by, we finally make our way out to freedom. And like last time, I traveled with him to the Standing Stones, where this time I chose the Mage Stone, which ultimately does nothing to help me as I was expecting it to. Making our way over to Riverwood, we start to speak with Hadvar's uncle, where we quickly go inside to tell of what just happened to us, to which he asks us to get the Jarl's help to defend the small town. But before we do, I decide to make my way to Bleak Falls Barrow to retrieve the Dragonstone first. I figured it would be best, seeing as how to buy a staff a lot of gold is going to be involved, and I was a bit light considering the circumstances of just fleeing for my life from a giant black dragon that's ending the world. It was while walking around that I came across a small hut with a lady, and I remembered that she was a witch or a hag-raven wannabe, so thinking maybe she had a staff laying around, I decided to have her get killed by the wolves that were chasing me, and this process took a while. But once she was dead, I was disappointed to find that neither on her person nor in her house was a staff, including in that small underground room that she had. So to my dismay, I had to continue on, staffless, and up the mountainside into Bleak Falls Barrow. Now from here, I had to run through as quickly as I could to minimize the damage I took, and taking advantage of the rule that we can hit the webs with our fists, so long as we don't cause damage to another NPC or creature, we punch our way into a large room with a giant spider making its way down, and we see a man stuck in a door in some webs. Knowing this scumbag is just going to try to betray us with the golden claw, we quickly punch our way through his web trap and allow him to die so we can loot his body. He died much faster than he did last time, so I wasn't actually prepared for it, and I just stood around for a few minutes waiting to hear his death sound, which I actually missed. After looting the golden claw from his pathetic dead body and running like Forrest Gump through this dungeon, I finally reached the claw door, which brings me into the massive main chamber. It is here we see a word wall calling to us with glowing symbols, which must be some sort of unknown language. After learning this new word, a Draugr overlord comes out of his coffin to attack us. Repeating what we did last time, I had to kite him back to the swinging axe trap to kill him and loot the Dragonstone off his body. After doing so, we quickly make our way out of the barrow and head back to Riverwood and on towards Whiterun, where we can ask the Jarl for help. And I will admit here, I had a bit of fun. I was always tired of the housecarl getting in my way and annoying me with questions like, "Why are you here?" So I did kite her around and just ran past her to talk directly to the Jarl, which I heard dialogue I've never actually heard before. Personally, I think this is the way I'm going to approach this situation from now on, because it's a much better reaction and conversation than what is normally had. After our little chat, he asks me to talk to the court wizard Farengar Secretfire to assist with his dragon project, which unbeknownst to them, we already completed their little task. After handing over the stone, we are alerted to a dragon attack over at the western tower, and because apparently seeing a dragon and then running away gives us more experience than anyone else, despite this guard doing exactly what we did, and instead we are asked to help fight it and see if it can be killed. And here I did something I never have actually done before. I went with the housecarl Aerolith to go to the front gate and listen to her little speech, which I must admit was cheesy, and afterwards I rushed over to the western tower with the group in tow. After arriving and seeing the damage caused by the dragon, we are quickly told by the survivor not to approach because the dragon may be coming back, and sure enough, it does. It was a bit of a struggle for everyone else, and the fight dragged on a lot longer than last time, but eventually the dragon is slain, and apparently I absorb its soul, and everyone starts calling me the Dragonborn or something like that. I really don't know what the heck they're talking about. And of course, I'm just trying to rush at this point, so I skip the whole introduction to the Dragonborn bit and run straight back to Whiterun to let the Jarl know of our success. While running, we hear a booming choir saying something about Madonna singing or something, and shortly after our quick jog we return and let the Jarl know that the dragon is dead and that we might be something known as the Dragonborn. But we don't have much time to worry about that because right now we need to grind, and I mean full on grinding here. Staffs are not cheap and neither am I. When it comes to quality, I only want the best. So in order for us to continue, we must take advantage once more of our good friend's forge chest to loot our way to some serious coin. However, we are lacking the shout that allows us to do this, so for now we must go speak to the Greybeards, as this is the only way for us to start the grinding spree. Now really quick, just because I thought this was random, as I was wandering through the city, I found a dead guard just laying next to the tree. I'm not sure how he got here, or what killed him, or just what happened, but I would like to think, in the spirit of the epic Nate 315, this man was murdered to death. Moving on though, I did remember that there are people who sell staffs and ingredients that I can use to make more staffs at the College of Winterhold. So I went there first in order to see if anyone had a staff I could buy and also get the stupid magic challenge out of the way. Luckily there was a staff to buy and I was able to get the test done, and thus I have now established a spot to buy staffs should collecting the resources get tricky. Now it's on to Riften to walk all the way to Iverstead and then up the 7,000 steps to the Greybeards. Hey guys, post-editing Michael here. So while doing the snowberry hunts, I found out it is much faster to travel to Helgen and then use the trail just to walk there faster. I don't know why, but after possible hundreds, if not thousands of hours of playing and replaying Skyrim, I cannot believe I just figured this out. I never thought I was actually this big of an idiot until now. Anyways, back to the video. After a lot of time talking, we finally get our whirlwind sprint shout. Now we can start the long process of getting money and materials to make even more money and eventually build our own staffs. Now to save you the nitty gritty, it took over 2 hours to build one single staff on my own, and because of the resource gain, a little over an additional hour for a second one. As it turns out, mud crabs don't give a lot of chitin, so having to get anywhere from 3 to 5 chitin per staff was a bit hard, especially seeing as how I never saw Snowberry before and had to go on a blind scavenger hunt for him. Ultimately, I had to look up the locations to get bone meal, snowberries, and a good source for mud crabs. And while this did speed up the process, I think for now I'll stick to just buying them, which still means grinding the Skyforge chests for material and money. And before I forget, when I went and started my search for mud crabs, I saw a dragon land by a giant's camp, and it got absolutely devastated. I have no idea how often this happens, but this was the first time I've ever seen it, and I just busted out laughing. Okay, so you guys know the drill. Because we have to progress at some point or else we can never finish the game, we have to go and get the horn from Ustengraf, which means taking what staffs I did get and made and dive right on in. And I'm not gonna lie, I do wish I had a companion for this, but for the sake of the video, I can't have someone running around killing everything on my behalf while I use minimal staffs. So for the sake of fairness, I must endure. Just expect me to complain a little bit. If anything, I just wish I had my buddy Inigo. Anyways, the dungeon was actually fairly simple. I got the word of power, not that I can use it really, and learning my lesson that I keep forgetting, I made it to the last chamber actually pretty quick. I did have to use my staffs a bit, but I was expecting to use all of them, and I will just call that in of itself a win on my part. So of course, with the horn gone and a letter telling us to go back to Riverwood, we do so and ask to rent the attic room, which they don't even have, those liars. And Delphine comes and tells us that we must speak with her in private. We oblige, and she tells us that she doesn't believe we are the Dragonborn and gives us a half-baked reason why she could be the Dragonborn, and that we must prove ourselves to her like we have some kind of mommy issue. We begrudgingly agree, and we set off to Kynesgrove to kill us a dragon. This fight wasn't as hard as the last, but it still took more than I was wanting to use, but without a follower to assist Delphine, I just had no other choice. After the battle is won, we head back to Riverwood so Delphine can think of a way to get us into the Thalmor embassy to see what they know of the dragons returning. Once we get back though, she tells us to go meet a man named Malborn, a Bosmer who also hates the Thalmor and can help get us inside, and it's here we did some more grinding. After we get a couple staffs made for this mission and we level up our armor a bit, we quickly head back to the Greybeards to return the horn and receive the last shout needed for the unrelenting force. And then we finally head to meet Malborn to set the stage for our, shall we say, explosive escape. But once done, we can head in to start our grand plan. And just being honest with you guys, if it wasn't for Elowen being evil, I would say she's possibly one of my favorite characters without add-ons or anything. She's powerful, smart individual, and conducts herself in an elegant manner, though she can be stern and rude at times. But overall, I think she actually could be a nice person if she'd sit there and stop trying to destroy the world, right? I think we can sit there and say that's a redeeming quality. Once we have our distraction going though, we slip to the back and grab our gear, and after last time where it took us hours and hours and hours of work just to be able to beat this mission, I was definitely itching to set some filthy elves on fire. Now, because Thalmor wizards can use wards, this makes my job a bit harder, but not too much. And one of the weird things about staffs is that if an enemy gets close to you, it will sometimes stop damaging them, meaning that you need to find a way to get them away from you in order to start dealing more damage again. I had a bit of a hard time with this, but I did eventually make my way through and killed every one of them that got in my way. I even managed to save Malborn before he gets attacked. Once we're done, we get a book with the guy's name wrote on it. We run back to Riverwood to let Delphine know that she was full and other family unfriendly words about the situation and that the Thalmor are looking for this Esbern fellow, who she apparently knows. She advises us to speak to a person in Riften, which I already know he won't help us, so instead I bypass that altogether and just go straight for the Radaway. Once we get down so far, we get attacked by Thalmor agents and have to fight our way through. After that, we tell Esbern to open up, which he does so, and we inform him of who we are, to which he agrees to follow us and meet back up with Delphine. As soon as we get back to Riverwood, they have a small reunion, and he begins to tell us of a temple hidden in the Reach that might, or might not, have the answer of how to beat Alduin. As we were about to set out to find this temple, a dragon attacks Riverwood. Good thing I went to the Jarl about that, and the beast is quickly slain. And from here on, guys, I just about said screw it and decided to scrap the whole thing with what followed. So knowing I would have to go to Skyhaven Temple, fight a few Reachmen or Forsworn, whichever you prefer to call them, I figured it'd be best to get a few more staffs just because we were nearing the end game. So I spent about 2, maybe 3 hours grinding for gold, and then about an additional hour or so buying staffs that actually dealt damage, like lightning or fire, or even frost actually. And then it happened. My game crashed. And with it, my 3 or 4 hours of grinding. No big deal though, I did it once, I can do it again. And I did. Got to work making gold, and it crashed again, and by now I was absolutely livid at this point. So I restarted and decided to save after every sale I made, save after every purchase. Got so paranoid that I was shaking almost uncontrollably. And finally, a third crash. But aha, I was ready for it. I only lost about 20 minutes of game time, which was nothing as it was my early adventure into Blackreach for the Elder Scroll rather than the grinding. So with that, I had officially wasted 4 days of recording. Mainly because of my work schedule, every crash was a reset and basically the end of that session. But finally, with all that out of the way, we can finally move on to what's important. We learned that the ancient Nords used a shout to defeat Alduin. So I went to go speak with the Greybeards to see if they could help us learn it. They refuse but tell us that their leader Parthenax might know. We get the Clear Skies shout and make our way up the mountainside. Once there, we finally meet him, and this time he doesn't abandon us like he did last time. And he tells us that he also doesn't know the shout, but by bringing an Elder Scroll, we might be able to learn it. I had already gone to unlock the area to get into Blackreach as well as talking to Septimus Cygnus, and was pretty much all set, just had to actually go and do it, which is where one of the crashes happened before. After suffering in Blackreach, we arrived back in order to read it at the Time Wound. For some reason, my fast travel had Parthenax already on the rock and me facing in a weird direction, and I gotta admit, Skyrim never fails to catch me off guard. We read that the Time Wound and learn the shout, and after doing so, Alduin appears. While fighting him, we have yet another crash, but thankfully I saved right beforehand, so all I lost was the amount of time reading the scroll and listening to the Nords bicker about the fight. Taking the time to try a different strategy, we quickly make short work of Alduin, and he retreats back to Sovngarde to devour the souls of the dead. And here's where I'm going to just skip a huge chunk of it because it's just a massive waste of time. Essentially, we need to catch a dragon at Dragon's Reach, and to do so we need the Jarl's help. He will not help us because of the ongoing war, so we have to get a truce from both sides to not attack anyone until we defeat Alduin. Both sides agree, and we catch Odahviing, and he agrees to take us to Skuldolfin because he doesn't like Alduin all that much. We arrive at Skuldolfin and must make our way through. Being able to actually cause damage made this run much easier than last time, and I made no mistake of bringing an ally this time, so I was set for victory. I had my staffs already, even ones I felt were useless, but hey, you never know, and I charged my way in. It took some finesse, but I was able to get through with minimal loss on my charges, and I went straight through to the portal. We were in the home stretch. This is it. All we have to do is run as fast as we can to the other side of the map, get the aid of the 3 ancient Nords, and defeat Alduin. So sticking to that plan, I run across and hurry my fight with Sun. I'm gonna just assume it's Sun. I gain entry and meet the 3 heroes. We gather ourselves at the end of the path, and with our mighty voices, dissipate the soul-snaring fog. Alduin arrives, angry at what we have done, arrogant of his strength, and not long after, the battle starts. Using up a set of fire staffs, I switched to lightning and laid heavily into him, being sure to not allow him to fly off using Dragon Rend as soon as I could, all while shocking the beast with unending blows. And as quickly as the battle started, it was over. Alduin is defeated and the world saved. No longer will we have to worry about the destruction of our world. And there you have it, guys. You can actually beat Skyrim with only staffs. And as a bonus, you can beat Skyrim by buying a ludicrous amount of the danged things without recharging a single one of them. Is it worth it? Heck no, not even close. But was it fun? Overall, I'm gonna say yes. While the crashes definitely made me hate not only my life, but also made me want to Fusho doll my friend off a mountainside, I enjoyed the challenge of not just finding an overpowered staff and recharging it over and over again. The best trick to that would just be buy soul gems, which are easy to come across and not all that hard of a challenge. This was definitely hard, but I would say if you want to rage at something, this right here is it. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the video, and be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed. If you did, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button too to know when I upload another video. With that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care everybody.